Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Theatre Royal, Waterford. For your safety and comfort, we would like to draw your attention to the emergency exits, which are on your right and left in the stalls, dress circle and upper circle levels. In the unlikely event of an emergency, please make your way calmly to your nearest exit and follow the instructions of our front of house staff. Please note that the use of photographic or recording equipment of any kind is not permitted. Now would be a good moment to turn off your mobile phone completely. Thank you for visiting the Theatre Royal. We hope you enjoy the performance.
Good morning, everyone. Please come in and have a seat. And lovely to see you all live, like Joe Duffy going live. Okay, so I just like to say thank you so much for coming out. It's a little bit wet this morning, but it's lovely to see people out, and I think the energy is very good. Thank you all. I just want to wish you all a very, very happy International Women's Day. This is our third global conference in association with Waterford Libraries, Europe Direct and Waterford Integration Services. I'm not going to say any more at the moment. I'd just like to introduce you to Councillor Mary Roach, who is Deputising Mayor, to officially open our event today to mark International Women's Day. Thank you.
Wow, it's pretty amazing. I can't tell you how long it is since I stood up on a stage to give a speech. So if my leg starts shaking, you'll have to excuse me. And also excuse the COVID stone that I've put on. I wouldn't like to be trying to close the top button in this coat. I think it should take off into the audience. But you're all extremely welcome to our beautiful historic Theatre Royal here in Waterford. And it's amazing. It's fantastic to see so many of you turned out in what is truly a very difficult morning weather-wise. We are here for the third Global Women's Conference to celebrate and to mark International Women's Day. So I've already had it said to me twice this morning, when is International Men's Day? And the standard response always is, you know, the other 364 days of the year. So today's theme is Break the Bias, and there is a beautiful and inspirational lineup of speakers and performers, which I know you'll enjoy. And I think for the last 2 years we've enjoyed them online and on Zoom, so it's great to be back in person and to have all the women here. Anne has given you the details of the organisers, and I just want to congratulate them all, because it's a big thing to try and organise something, and particularly when people are just, you know, venturing back outside. So well done to the Europe Direct Office, Waterford Libraries, who are we're very lucky to have such a progressive library service here in Waterford, and also Waterford Integration Services, which are based down in New Street now, I think. And congratulations to them, by the way. They won an award last Friday in the Business Awards for Training and Development. So congratulations to Waterford Integration Services and Anne Nolan on that. And this morning we want to highlight and celebrate women's achievements. International Women's Day reminds us that whether deliberate or unconscious, bias makes it difficult for women to move ahead. Knowing that bias exists isn't actually enough. Action is needed to level the playing field. Individually, we're all responsible for our own thoughts and actions all day, every day, and that includes men and women. We can strive for a world that is diverse, equitable and inclusive, and a world where difference is valued and celebrated. Together we can forge women's equality. We can all choose to seek out and celebrate women's achievements. And I just want to acknowledge, if I may, the other female councillors from Waterford City Council. There are only 4 of us. One had an appointment, so there are 3 here today. Christina Kiley from the Green Party is here, and Joanne Bailey from Sinn Féin is also here. So dare I say that when all things are considered, you might consider voting for a woman as well as all the other things, or indeed running for the council or for higher office in Ireland yourselves. Collectively, we can all help create an inclusive world, and we can break the bias on International Women's Day. I hope you have a wonderful morning of speakers, and I hope you enjoy the day, and happy International Women's Day.
Okay, so thank you very much, Mary. We're now going to introduce you to Osas, Usideme, on behalf of Waterford Integration Services. Osas?
Good morning and welcome to every woman in the house and the few bold men. Blessed are thou among women. Happy International Women's Day. It's good to be back in person after this whole 2 years. The last 2 years, it was a narrow escape. We just finished it and there was lockdown. We all went in So today we're celebrating the International Women's Day at the Waterford 3rd Global Women's Conference, and the theme is Break the Bias. So there'll be a lot of entertainment today, so I want you to please feel free, relax, have a break, have a Kit Kat, and enjoy the day. Welcome.
Okay, thank you, Osas. Just to let you know that Osas actually came here and would have worked with Waterford Integration Services as a service user. We are delighted now to say that Osas has really worked her way up and educated herself to a master's degree level, is working in intercultural health, and is now actually one of our directors. So congratulations, Osas, on that. Okay, so now we have a piece, a pre-recorded piece from Sarah Benson. And Sarah Benson is the CEO of Women's Aid. And she agreed to record this special message for our event because, unfortunately, she had other commitments and couldn't make it down from Dublin. So I suppose there's pluses and minuses with everything. When you have an online event, you know, it's easier for people to participate at that level. But we now, like I said, we now have that pre-recorded message from Sarah Benson of Women's Aid. Thank you.
Hello, how are you? My name is Sarah Benson. I'm the CEO with Women's Aid Ireland, and I want to thank my colleagues in the Waterford Integration Services and the Conference Organising Committee for the opportunity to say a few words to you today at the start of this 3rd Global Women's Conference. Such a timely gathering, and also one which I hope will be stimulating and challenging and productive for all of you. I'm so sorry I can't be with you in person, as unfortunately I have a clash today, but I am very sorry to miss the meeting. And from hearing the amazing lineup of talented women who are speaking with you today. So I just want to say that I am very much with you all in spirit. I also want to recognise and acknowledge that these are challenging times, particularly for women. But in challenging times, there is always a place for hope and strength and action. We do know that there are some stark figures that tell us that violence against women is a serious problem all over the globe. Indeed, 1 in 3 women worldwide experience physical or sexual violence. And every day, 137 women around the world are killed by a partner or a member of their own family. Women's Aid Femicide report, which we maintain since 1996, records the names of all the women who die in this country at the hands of a violent perpetrator. We do that so that they and their communities who have been robbed of them and their boundless potential are honoured and remembered. In Ireland, 1 in 4 women experience emotional, physical, sexual or economic abuse from a partner or an ex-partner. And in order to stop this abuse, we need to know what causes it. We need to tackle the problem at the root. Violence against women is caused by gender inequality. It also leads to further inequality as it prevents women from participating in society and fulfilling their full potential. Domestic abuse is not just something that happens behind closed doors. It infiltrates every level of our society. It impacts in our communities, our schools, our colleges, and our workplaces. And so we all therefore have a part to play in putting a stop to it. Women's Aid is one of Ireland's national organisations working to stop domestic violence against women and children, and we do our best to contribute to ending domestic violence and all forms of violence against women and girls through our frontline services, our national training, and our advocacy and campaigning. But I think it's really important to say that we do not act alone. We are part of both a national and a global movement against domestic abuse and for gender equality. Achieving gender equality and empowering women and girls is one of the key sustainable development goals of the United Nations. In particular, our work focuses on SDG 5, and we need to recognise that to end domestic violence, we have to develop better responses to it. And we also need to take a proactive approach to building a society where domestic abuse simply cannot exist, where it has zero tolerance. And it's only when we achieve that real gender equality and equity that women and girls will be free of violence. And only then will we all be able to live safe, happy, and fulfilled lives. So we all have to work together to end violence against women. And it starts here. It starts in conferences like this, in coming together. You know, it starts with all of us. We each have that role to play. And more than anything, I know that we are strong when we are together. When we recognise and consciously identify the intersecting inequalities that can impede the success and the power of our sisters due to disability, due to their sexuality, due to being from a minoritized ethnic group, we have to work always from the principle of creating a wave that will lift us all equally. So we are strong together, and we will be stronger also with men as allies who join with us to speak up and speak out, to challenge sexist, misogynistic behaviour and male violence, who join with us with an open heart and an open mind, without qualifications, and recognising also the limitations that a patriarchal society places not just on women's and girls' potential, but also on the potential of men and boys who can also flourish outside of the narrow trappings of a tired, emotionally disconnected, and selfish interpretation of masculinity. So I hope that your day together will plant seeds that will grow into great friendships, powerful alliances, and formidable activism for change. I'm wishing you all a very, very happy International Women's Day, to all of you sisters and all of you brothers who are gathering today. Have a great time. Thank you.
Okay, so great words there from Sarah Benson, and I think the statistics are something that we all need to bear in mind. So our next speaker has joined us from Brussels. Her name is Magda Boulabiza. Magda joined the European Network Against Racism in 2021. She has gained experience as a legal trainee in the field of migration and asylum law, where she advised and guided asylum seekers to obtain legal protection in France in collaboration with several NGOs and public authorities. In addition, during her time as a legal consultant in Brussels, she developed corporate social responsibility content and best practices on diversity and inclusion of minority groups in the workplace. She is currently Advocacy Officer for Employment Diversity and Inclusion with ENAR, and she holds a Master's degree in Public Law and Public Affairs. We would like to welcome Magda, please.
Good morning. So thank you, Anne, for the introduction. As she said, my name is Magda Boulabiza, and I work as an advocacy officer for the European Network Against Racism. We're located in Brussels, Belgium, and we're a civil society organization composed of a network of over 150 civil society organizations who are working at the grassroots level to dismantle structural racism in Europe. At the Secretariat in Brussels, we advocate and do research advocating to the European Union for better policies that take into consideration the situation of racialized minorities in European society. I was asked today to introduce ENAR's work, as well as how to improve the situation in the private sector of migrant women through our Equal at Work initiative. But before I start with the recommendations, it seemed necessary to talk about the violent crisis that is currently unfolding in front of us in Ukraine and the blatant double standards that it has set for how humanitarian crises are handled in Europe, and how, for instance, the crisis related to Afghanistan, the crisis related to Syria, and all the people who have died in the Mediterranean have not benefited from the same legal protection that is currently being deployed for Ukrainians. Also, whether it be through the protection frameworks that are activated specifically for this crisis, or for the differentiated treatment that racialized people in Ukraine are experiencing with the violation of their rights, where they do not get to cross the border to seek safety, where they face police brutality and so on, we see how this crisis tells us that we still have a long way to go to dismantle structural racism in Europe. With that being said, in honor of the International Women's Day, I will talk a bit about our Equal at Work initiative and the solutions that can help migrant women access to meaningful employment. In 2009, INAR launched an initiative called Equal at Work, which is a multi-stakeholder platform where we partner with the private sector to create best practices and innovative solutions for the inclusion of racialized minorities in the labor market so that they can meaningfully and fully participate to the labor market in Europe. As a civil organization, this endeavor has been particularly sensitive because it was difficult for us to assess the risk of being aligned and associated with multinational organizations who are sometimes perpetuating racism. But the rationale behind this initiative was that if we do not engage with these private sector organizations, we cannot do anything about the situation, we cannot advocate for change, and we cannot challenge their racist practices. Just to give you an example, when we first started this initiative in 2009, one of the partners that came seeking help from INAR was an organization that was facing judicial sanctions in France due to racist and discrimination that they were perpetrating. And today, SOS Racism published an article stating that when they were reviewing and assessing which temporary placement agencies were still perpetrating discrimination practices, they were the only one that came out with 0 discrimination cases. So just to show you that this work and this challenging of racist practices and this advocacy has actually creating meaningful results. INAR has published many reports on integration and inclusion of migrants in European society. To discuss the situation of migrant women, we also have to analyze the intersecting discrimination that they face in the field of employment, whether it be their migrant status. It is intertwined with the fact that they are women, that they are often not white, and that sometimes are expressing their religion visibly. All of these identity factors come together to create a compounding effect on them, hindering migrant women from fully participating in the labor market due to the structures and systemic racism that they are subject to. Now that we have set the frame on the oppression of migrant women in the workforce, I will get into some of the solutions that we advocate for in employment as INAR. In terms of policy making, aside from the difficulties of visa, the difficulties of getting documentation and to get a legal status in Europe, that remains a key barrier to accession to the labor market. This obstacle is also to be linked with the lack of recognition of qualification from non-EU countries, from third countries. And INAR advocates for better policy frameworks that not only focus on transferable skills, on soft skills that people have when they arrive to Europe, but also on their certification, their degrees, so that they get recognized when here. For instance, we had a case study of someone that was an architect in Brazil, but when they arrived to Belgium, they couldn't they couldn't work as an architect anymore because their diploma was not recognized here, and they had to either start over their whole career as an architect or find a job that was way below their qualification. Secondly, when it came to our private sector relationship, our first role is to challenge their racist policies and work environment that would contribute to racialized people experiencing stereotypes or prejudice or negative work experience. There is still a gap to breach to get migrant women into the workforce. First of all employers should implement sponsorship programs to employ non-European citizens, because it remains a reality that employers often decide that due to the administrative costs or the administrative trouble that would go with sponsoring a visa, they decide to not hire people that are from a third country to the EU and go with EU nationals. This way, if we get to a sponsoring scheme that is mandatory for all employers, third country migrants would have access to the same opportunities as EU citizens. Another key that is still missing to get migrants into the workforce has been to see job postings. Employers need to ensure that they are posting their job offers in places where migrant people can find them, like through network organizations, migrant-led organizations, and so on, that are easy for them to actually disseminate within their communities. So the missing link to get migrant women to the workforce starts from their arrival in the European Union, whether it be due to administrative constraints or language barrier. And here I also want to salute all the work that the grassroots organizations are doing, especially Waterford Integration Services, who invited me today to speak to you within this community to get a better situation for migrant women and for people who are forced to relocate outside of their national countries. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much for that, Magda. It was a lot of information to take in, but it's something that we're going to be working with ENAR on, and we want to follow an Equal at Work programme here, starting in Waterford, and particularly working with migrant women to help them into employment. So next we have something very special for you, and we'd like to welcome back Osas. Osas, take the stage.
Who sat and washed my infant head when sleeping on my cradle bed, and tears of sweet affection shed? My mother. When pain and sickness made me cry, who gazed upon my heavy eyes and wept for tears that I should die? My mother. Who taught my infant lips to pray and love God's holy book and day, and walk in wisdom pleasant way? My mother. And how can I ever cease your affectionate and kind to me? Who was so very kind to me? My mother. No. The thought I cannot bear. And if God please my life to spare, my heady arm will be the stay, and I shall soothe the pain away. My mother. When thou art old, feeble, and gray, I shall be there to soothe the pain away, with my heady arm for you to stay. My mother. Unfortunately, you're gone forever. I look forward to gaining these cares, however, from your grandchildren, whenever, my mother.
Thank you, Osas. She's a gifted performer as well as talented in education, and she does something special for us every year. So thank you for that, Osas. Now, we're now going to introduce Ciara Fitzgibbon. Ciara worked with us on placement in 2021 in Waterford Integration Services, but she has worked internationally with different charities in the area of cultural awareness and diversity training. She is a mother of 4 children and recently re-entered full-time education, having returned from living in Russia with her family for 5 years. Ciara is currently doing a degree in social care work with a special interest in working with vulnerable migrants. We think that Ciara is a really, really good role model for other young mothers, you know, to go back to school, to have 4 children. You know, you want anything done, you ask a busy woman. So we'd just like you to welcome Ciara Fitzgibbon, please. Thank you.
Hi, good morning and happy Women's Day. I'm delighted to be here this morning, to be live. It's just fantastic to be back, isn't it? So this morning I'm going to talk to you a little bit and share a little bit about my own story. And given our theme today, I'm going to talk about unconscious bias and a time in my life when I encountered it in a really significant way. And so I want to bring you back to when I was 16 years old. I was standing at a till in Dunnes Stores in Cork, and I just handed the lady a voucher, but it wasn't a normal food voucher. On it was stamped no alcohol, no tobacco products, and no baby powder. And this unusual voucher had been given to me by my social worker. And it was the first time I'd ever had to use one of these vouchers, because at 16 years old, I found myself unexpectedly in care, in state care. And so as this lady looked at me, I saw the confusion in her eyes. I saw the pity and a little bit of nervousness as well, if I'm honest. And so she did what I didn't want her to do, which was touch that horrible red button, setting off the flashing light above her till, getting her manager's attention and the attention of every other person in the queue behind me. And so as my face turned the same colour as that horrible red light, her manager came over and started whispering in her ear. And I wanted to shout at them and say, "It's okay, I'm not one of them. I'm not like the other kids in foster care. I'm a good girl," because my situation was what I thought completely unlike other people in foster care. I came from a good family. I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I didn't do drugs, I didn't even curse. And so I wanted to say this to them. And that was my unconscious bias about other kids and other young people in care. And so I was in care, and I was in care for the next 2 years of my life until I was 18. I have to say, by and large, I had a very positive experience of being in care. I lived with a fantastic family that took really good care of me. And so when I turned 18, I left their home. I became what's known as a care leaver, and I entered college into UCC. There, I would spend the next 3 years of my life failing languages. I tried Irish and it wasn't for me, I tried Spanish and it wasn't for me, and then I called it quits and I decided that maybe college wasn't for me and languages definitely weren't. And so around that time, it was just after the financial crisis in Ireland, the recession. I met a lovely guy who went on to become my husband. I was working in retail, we had our first child, and then we made the decision, like a lot of Irish young people at the time, to leave Ireland. But unlike a lot of Irish people, we decided to go to Siberia, Russia. Where they do speak Russian, which is a foreign language, in case you're wondering. And so I began working there part-time, writing articles for the website, you'll be glad to know, in English. But over the course of our time there, I had fantastic opportunities to be trained, and by the time we were leaving 5 years later, I was heading up and coordinating their program for new recruits in cultural and diversity training. And so when we returned to Ireland after 5 years of Russia, it was really easy for me, as we moved to Waterford, from Cork, as I got to know people, to skim over those embarrassing 2 years of my life. It was really easy to present my Instagram self, and as I say, skip to the good part, where now I'm really happy to say I have a great relationship with my family. But in 2020, I made the decision, as Anne said, to go back to college with 4 kids and study social care work. And here it became much more difficult to skim over that portion of my life, because I was now studying people just like me, who are in care, and their experiences mirrored my own experience. Brené Brown says, "You either walk inside your story and own it, or you stand outside and you hustle for your worthiness." And I realised then that for the majority of my adult life, I really had been hustling and striving and, as I said, presenting the best version of myself, and I wasn't at all really owning this part of my life. But now that I was aware of it, I had a decision to make. And what I've come to learn, and what I wish I knew then, 17 years ago, standing at that till in Dunnes Stores, was that those 2 years of my life would actually go on to become one of my greatest strengths. That those 2 years have given me a perspective and a unique way of relating to people, not only in care, but in situations completely unlike my own. Because I've made that journey from what I know and my background to a place I never, ever expected to be. And I say it's unique, but is it unique? Because how many of us as women have said, I never thought this would be me. I never, ever thought this would be me. I did not ever expect to be here. And so this morning, I want to leave us with a challenge and a quote. I want to challenge us this morning that if we are brave enough and if we take the courage to try and break some of our own biases, some of our own preconceived ideas, attitudes, feelings, not only about ourselves, but about other people and other groups, that actually we will find great value there. I now know, standing in my truth, that standing in it and accepting it actually brings value not only to my relationships with my friends, with my husband, with my children, but also to my work as a student and as a researcher, and hopefully soon as a social care worker. And so I want to leave you with this courage that you may have heard before, but it really rang true for me. And it's from Mary Ann Radmacher, and it says, "Courage does not always roar. Sometimes it's the quiet voice at the end of the day that says, I'll try again tomorrow." Thank you very much.
Okay, I was right, wasn't I? Okay, so now we'd like to welcome two very special guests with a story to tell. And that's Dalal Sayed and Lani O'Hanlon. Dalal was born in Damascus and was in the midst of her studies as a primary school teacher when the Syrian civil war in 2011 escalated and forced her to flee. She has not seen her relatives since. For the next 6 years, she was on a perilous journey with her family to find safety, and she arrived in Ireland in 2017, speaking no English. She now lives in County Waterford with her husband Amir and 3 children. Lani, who's coming on with her, is a writer, poet and somatic movement therapist. She has an MA in creative writing from Lancaster University and facilitates creative writing and movement retreats in the southeast. Her writing is published widely in various journals and anthologies, including Poetry Ireland, Poetry Chicago, Poetry Wales, Portland Review, and broadcasts regularly on RTE Sunday Miscellany. Dalal has written her own story and escaped from war to live in peace with the encouragement of her mentor and friend, writer Lani O'Hanlon. Please welcome both ladies to the stage. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. What a great day. Thanks so much. So my name is Lani, and this is Dalal.
My name is Dalal.
And we've been on a bit of a journey for over a year, writing Dalal's story. And rather than me talk about that, I'd like to read a poem about being in Dalal's house and her generosity to me as we wrote the story. So it's called When I Visit Dalal. When I visit Dalal, she feeds me homemade biscuits, chocolate, dates, and Syrian coffee. Shows me the fig tree planted against the back wall in the garden. I pick dandelions. Tell her the leaves are good to eat. Her bare feet are high-arched, strong. She reads me her story and I type it up on the laptop. Sometimes we stop and she hands me a tissue. A description of her husband Amir crossing the freezing river, going under, holding the child up out of the water. Sometimes we get angry. the farmer in Iraq who sold them slices of mouldy bread, charged €100 to each family sheltering from the rain in his sheep shed. Everywhere greedy people, we nod. Unkind. Kind, yes. Dalal looks up words she doesn't know on Google Translate. Yeah. Gas cooker, ferry, yeah. Embassy. We search for films and photographs. The camp in Iraq, the state of the tents, row after row unending. Her daughter, Nasa, writes her story. She loves pink, every shade, and the colour suits her long, dark hair. Aziz and Judy curl up on the couch to look at a book together. I think about cold, fire, water, blankets, medicine, tents, long lines for toilets, showers, clothes, food, a small stove. Dalal carried heavy buckets of water, armfuls of wood. She reads her writing, translating it into English as I type. Amir works in the bakery, and outside, people in Cappoquin go about their Saturday, this woman amongst them, gather wood, figs, touch her feet. So Dalal, how do you feel now that you're here?
I feel nervous. It is my first time talking in front of people, but I know that I am strong. I have changed since I had to leave Syria, Damascus. I know now what I want, and I will say it. I was here 3 years ago with my friend Lani, and I turned to her and said, I will be here talking one day with hardly English.
So you would know English, and she was in the audience, and she said, I will be up there, and I will be speaking. So that was a real vision. And now, as well as your own language, Arabic, you also speak Kurdish. Because she had to learn Kurdish in the camp. It was a Kurdish camp. And now English also. And not only that, but she's written her own story about the journey to Ireland, which is a beautiful story and will be out in about 2 or 3 weeks and will be available in all the libraries. The title?
Escape from the war to be in peace.
And will you read us a little bit of it, Dalal?
I
bit
love
of the story. Okay, great.
One night, the electricity went off in our town, and we couldn't see any news. We heard bombs and the sound of planes in the sky, and felt very frightened and worried about what we can do. After that, they started to bomb our houses. But we didn't know which houses they are bombed. And we heard the people and children screaming and shouting for help. So we lived beside my parents. I couldn't go to see them. And we didn't know either if they had bombed. We were afraid to open the door. But in the morning, we realized that they bombed the other streets. The next night, our electricity went off again. And they started to bomb our houses. In the morning, it was quiet. And the families started to leave their houses, looking for safe place. But we didn't know where the safe places were. My husband's family thought that we should leave our home. They brought the car to put our food, blankets, and clothes in. This time was very hard. We were not sure what to take, food or clothes, blankets. The car was too small, with open trailer. That I packed in panic with pajamas, top, but forgetting the bottoms. Socks, scarf, blankets, food, and I forgot our ID card, family book, and some pillows. We didn't even have time to say goodbye to my family and neighbors. As the car was pulling away, my mother opened her door and we waved. We didn't hug and say goodbye. We couldn't ring home because all the phones were cut off in Damascus. And we didn't know what was happening in our families. I have not seen my family since 2011. My mother died 2 years ago. She had leukemia. From here, I started the journey looking for a safe place, through mountains, through rivers, and through seas. And I found it. Ireland is now my safe place. Thank you so much.
So I'm just going to read the foreword to the book by Fergal Keane, the BBC war correspondent and author. And he says, I've spent much of a lifetime listening to the stories of those fleeing war. There are so many stories. Who should we care for? To whom should we listen? Over the decades, in camps and shanty towns, by the sides of roads, under the bombardment in beleaguered cities, I've heard plea after plea for help. It is not that the voices of the suffering do not reach me, or that I have, after all these years, become numbed or indifferent to their agonies. Perhaps it is the opposite, the relentless tide of human misery created by war, greed, and oppression hurts the soul the older I get, the more stories I hear. Because the danger is that you begin to feel, because the indifference of the powerful and the rich, that things will never be better. The darkness can block your appreciation of the better part of human nature. In this wonderful book, written with great honesty, Dalal opens up her world of war, trauma, exile, but also immense courage. It is the story of a family driven for the world they knew and in which they belonged, across borders and into the uncertain mercies of strangers. This account takes the reader beyond the headlines and the images of tired people trudging along dusty roads or risking their lives in small boats on the sea. This is not a story mediated by a Western journalist or an aid worker. It is the authentic voice of a refugee, and what a brave, original voice it is. In the new life she has helped her family to create in West Waterford, Dalal shows that hope is not only possible, it is an obligation. When you have finished reading this book, go buy it for your friends. Cherish its message of compassion and strength. It is a work that demands to be read and remembered.
Yeah. Thank you.
Shukran, Dalal, and thank you, Lani. Unfortunately, Dalal's story is not unusual. And we're seeing more and more evidence of that. So our solidarity today goes out to all those nations, cultures, communities in the world that are facing similar conflicts and displacement. Okay, so now we have something nice and special for you. So our next speaker is Anne Woodworth. Anne is a professional singer, choral director, and music educator. She worked as a lecturer at music at WIT for 25 years. She was founder director of WIT Music School and has recently retired as a teacher at the Royal Irish Academy of Music. She is director of the Bealtaine Choir, which is particularly for non-singers and emphasises the value of music in the health of older people. Anne has served as chair of the board of Waterford Healing Arts Trust until 2020 and has been shortlisted for a Volunteer of the Year award for 20 years of service, including as director of Samaritans Waterford. Anne believes that everyone can sing and that you're never too old to learn something new. I have a feeling she might be pushing you all to sing today. Okay, so please welcome Anne Woodworth.
I feel very humble coming out to speak in a way that is almost not serious enough from what we just heard, but we come from where we are. I want to tell you a little story. Imagine me as a 5-year-old, and I'm standing in a room looking at some blankets. It's a bring and buy sale that my mother has organised. And somewhere a voice above me says, "Those would be lovely blankets for the so-and-sos." And another voice said, "Oh no, they're far too good for those sort of people." That message, those sort of people, has stuck with me for 75 years. Who are those sort of people? We're all the same. We all like blankets. We all like to be warm and comfortable. And where did that come from? And this meant that even though I came from a very privileged background, I've actually experienced bias against me at various times in my life. As a woman, when I went to Trinity, I went to Trinity in the late 50s and discovered that women were second-class citizens. We weren't allowed to be on the college campus after 6 o'clock unless we had signed in at the front gate, and then we had to sign out again by 9 o'clock or else. I don't know what the or else was. I never discovered that. But it was a very, very unpleasant, if you like, experience. We weren't allowed to join many of the college societies. I had done a lot of debating in school and I wanted to debate. Wasn't allowed to join the debating society. So we women decided that it was the beginning, we were beginning to agitate. And it was time we started doing something about why are these silly rules here? Why? That doesn't make sense. And we tried to get into various meetings and were turfed out, and we protested. And finally, towards the end of my years there, I had a boyfriend who was very keen on rowing, and he took me rowing on the river at a time when nobody saw us because women couldn't join the boating society. And then I discovered that the regatta, which was one of the main events of the year, there was an open competition for any of the other societies to put in a team. And I got together a team of 4 of us, and we entered as the Choral Society boating team. But nobody knew who we were, and we didn't say. And on the day of the regatta, we turned up. And the dismay on the faces of all those young men who we knew well. What are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. Women don't row. But we said, oh, but we do. And we have a certificate that says we're accepted. And that was the beginning of the end of women being banned from rowing. So I say it's one of my claims to fame is that I was the first woman to row in Trinity. A political decision, if you like. Move forward about 15 years, and Ireland had just joined the EU, and the Council for the Status of Women was established. And I found myself as a delegate to the Council for the Status of Women for a number of years. Move forward another 20 years or so, and I was teaching in the college here, and I became the equality officer for the Teachers' Union of Ireland. And I discovered that women were still being biased. There was still a bias against women academics. Very difficult to get beyond a certain stage. So what happened early on has affected my approach to everything. I've also discovered that I have biases as well, and I think this is something we all need to realize and watch our language, and we can do something about it. I was a professional singer, so obviously I thought I was a really good singer, and I thought that, that I was special, and that other people who didn't sing as well as I did didn't quite measure up. And I was also doing some teaching, and somebody came to me one day, an actress, and she said she was losing work because she couldn't sing. And she had been to various teachers who said she wasn't good enough for them to teach. Just go away. And I worked with this actress for 2 years. She really was a very bad singer. She couldn't sing 2 notes in succession, and she really couldn't hear, but she wanted to, and she was determined she was going to. And after 2 years, she was able to get a temporary job as a singing waitress at Bunratty Castle. And I always say that I've taught many, many very great singers and good singers and people who've gone on to the profession. And I've always maintained that she was the greatest success that I had as a student, because she was determined, she worked, and she got there, and I didn't stop her. And I could have done. I could have said, sorry, you're not for me. And I think this is something that we all have to take into consideration. What can we do to further other people's wishes, to get them past the barriers that are there? About 10 years ago, I was asked to do a workshop in the library here in Waterford, and it was called Everyone Can Sing, because I had always discovered that everyone can sing. And singing is a natural way of expressing oneself. It's joyous, it's very good for the emotional, physical, and mental development of the person. And if you think of little children, they're always singing while they're working or while they're playing. And I used to find actually washing up was a great time to do my singing, because washing up is a bit boring, and you could sing as you went along. And anyway, we had this workshop, and quite a number of people came to the workshop who had been told when they were children, don't sing, you're no good, you can't sing. So they had gone through life understanding that they couldn't sing and that they shouldn't sing. And I told them, no, everybody can sing. And I now have, having formed a choir, we have about 80 members, and we still have the people who initially came and said, actually, I've never been able to sing and I was never allowed to sing. And I said, the success of that choir is the fact that we have so many people who have learned a new skill. And another thing that actually is important is, the saying, can't teach an old dog new tricks. You can teach a lot of old dogs new tricks. Because and I could, coming from my great age of 80, I can say this, we have quite a number of people in the choir of 80 plus, and they're all learning the whole time. So never say that you've stopped learning, because you keep on. And now I'm going to introduce some members of the choir to you, and they're going to sing the Ode to Joy. And this is very appropriate because it's the anthem for the EU. And just at the moment, I think we all need that uplift. And we're also going to ask you I wonder, can the lights in the house be turned up, because you have them there in front of you. Join in if you can, because we're also going to sing Oh, What a Beautiful Morning. And you will know that. And do join in, because singing is a communal thing. It's something we can all do together and really enjoy yourself and lift up and open up and lift the roof off the house. So now, some members of the Bealtaine Choir singing the Ode to Joy, which is from Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. hope it wasn't our fault that the rain came down. Because the choir, very early on in its life, was invited to sing at the opening of the Samaritan Garden at the Bloom Festival. And as we opened our mouths to sing, the heavens opened. Oh, what a beautiful morning is what we were singing. So do join in.
There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. The corn is as high as an elephant's eye, and it looks like it's climbing going up to the sky. Oh, what a beautiful morning! Oh, what a beautiful day! I've got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. All the cattle are standing like statues. All the cattle are standing like statues. They don't turn their heads as they see me ride by. But the little brown Afric is winking her eye. Oh, what a beautiful morning! Oh, what a beautiful day! I've got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. All the sounds of the earth are like music. All the sounds of the earth are like music. The breeze is so busy it don't miss a tree. And the lone weeping willow is laughing at me. Oh, what a beautiful morning! Oh, what a beautiful day! I've got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. Oh, what a beautiful day!
Well done. Thank you. Off you go.
Thank you, Anne and the Bealtaine Choir. Marvellous example, isn't it? Okay, so we're moving on down our agenda this morning, and our next speaker is Cora Kearney. Cora is founder of the Positive Ability Network, which began in 2021, and host of the Trash to Treasure project since July 2021. She went to college at 38 to replace some of the skills she lost after an illness changed how her brain works. She has a 15-year gap in memories, and her life will never be the same as it was. Every day, she is grateful for the life she has now, and she wouldn't trade it for anything. Please welcome Cora Kearney.
Thank you, everybody. I'd just like to start with an acknowledgement of some of the powerful people in my own life that have brought me to where I am. I had a very powerful grandmother who lived for her family, and my own mother, who gave me a kick in the arse exactly when I needed it and got me out of the bed. She came in one morning after 6 months after I became ill with fluid on my brain. She said, "You're getting out of that bed because I'm not looking after you for the rest of my life." As part of our family, we've had foster children in care with us. One of them here today. I'm so proud of. It's these powerful women in my life that encourage me and keep me going and help me to build a life that's better for the next generation coming up. In January this year, I made a list in the Irish Independent of one of 22 people to watch. It was a huge big deal because as a person with a disability, we sometimes don't get the acknowledgement, or people find it difficult to trust that we're capable. I built the Positive Ability Network because I find it difficult to transition between jobs. And my difficulty when I'm transitioning between jobs is that I have a long gap in my CV that you don't get an opportunity to explain away to employers. That gap was the hardest I've ever worked in my life. I had to relearn language. I had to learn to speak and walk and talk again. The Positive Ability Network is a jobs and social network for people from marginalised groups. Initially, I intended to specifically deal with only people with disabilities, but there's so many people marginalised, I couldn't just look after ourselves. I joined the Social Entrepreneurship Ideas Academy in 2020. And as a result of that programme, it led us to think about what comes next, what comes next, what comes next. And I had big dreams that all the employers that I contacted would sign up and make connections with job seekers on a personal level, and that everything would be fixed. And it didn't quite work out that way. I worked in customer service last year with Collect. It's a local company that do junk collections, skip collections, and for the moment, bin collections. And my boss asked me, well, how are you getting on? What do you think of your job? And I told him, I hate it. I hated my job. I was working in customer service and I absolutely hated it. There was a couple of days the week before, I just wanted to leave. I'm glad I didn't, because my boss suggested I work with their marketing department. My own degree is in marketing, so I thought, this is fantastic. I'll do something like that. And he suggested I blog about their recycling. I explained it would be a very short blog and that they weren't doing enough with recycling. So he asked me to come up with some kind of a plan or package or something that he could run with. And in the space of a week, I organised a workshop, told him he was paying for it and that we were setting up a Trash to Treasure project. The Trash to Treasure project is now supporting 6 people with disabilities. We've upcycled furniture that we get from Collect for free, and it's then sold on Facebook or Marketplace or wherever we can sell it. I'd sell it on the street if I had to. We're not funded by anybody. We rely a lot on donations of furniture coming from Collect or customers commissioning work pieces. And while we sell furniture, we're not in the furniture business, we're in the people business. We're in the business of supporting people that find it difficult to get jobs. Our workshop supervisor is a young man with autism. He's 23 years old, and for the past 2 years, he's been working with a landscape gardener. They used to give him 20 quid every now and again. We want to stop that. Our time is valuable. We're valuable. We want to change how people perceive people with disabilities. When I did an internship in WIT that was organised through Employability Services here in Waterford. And when I mentioned it at home, my brother happened to be there. And his comment was, what are you going to be doing, licking stamps? And that's what we fight every day, that we fight the perception that people think that we can only do menial jobs. I know they have to be done, and maybe for some person that is their capability. That's exactly what they would like to be doing. But we're qualified, independent with the right supports, there isn't anything that we can't do. We've recently found the premises, the perfect premises for our project. It's a 5,000 square feet workshop, and we can't wait. But going back again to the people in the workshop, one of our attendees in the workshop suffers from anxiety. He goes to bed every night wondering about the crack in the wall, the crack in the bath, and just loaded with anxiety, and sleeps most of the day because he's so stressed out by everything that's going on around him in the world. When he started in the workshop, for the first 2 weeks in the workshop, he came in. Every time something is nearly finished, he's so excited over it. The paint isn't dry, and he's sending pictures to everybody. And that's what our business is always going to be. It's going to be a people business that's working towards the next generation, so that the young people coming up won't have to worry about people wondering if they're going licking stamps. And again, I'd just like to say I'm so grateful to be here, and so grateful to have been given a voice, because there was a while I didn't have one. I didn't have any at all. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, thank you, Cora, for that. So again, you can agree, a very powerful speaker, willing to challenge, good innovator, great enterprise, entrepreneur, and a really good role model for us all. So before I hand you over to our final act, I want to play you a short trailer of our Diverse Creatives project, made possible by Creative Waterford funding. And really the library led on this, and we assisted by providing performers and engaging with other communities. So Diverse Creatives was a partnership between Waterford Libraries, Waterford Integration Services, Europe Direct Waterford, and Imagine Arts Festival, and through the excellent videos made by Davy from DGM. Put your hand up there, Davy, over there by the wall. It was it created a showcase of arts to celebrate the rich culture and experience of migrants who have made Ireland their home now. These cultural performances include dance from the Igbo community Waterford, music from singer and songwriter Minnie Marley, the unveiling of an intercultural quilt, which is down in the vestibule that we had photographs taken earlier on, and that was created by the women of the Shakti programme, and music from Mercury, who is an artist, DJ and producer, otherwise known as Gianni Capelli. He mightn't like to be called that, but anyway. There is an exhibition of photos from this project in the Intercultural Quilt, like I said, on display down in the vestibule of the theatre, if you want to have a look at that before you leave. So we're just going to have a look at the 60-second trailer. And after that, then we will hand you over to our last performer. So if we could just have that 60-second trailer, that would be great. Thank you.
Like right now, I'm a DJ, a rapper, sound engineer, and a producer, basically. Yeah. Got my knees on the floor, I'm praying heaven don't release this.
My name is Funke Anoluwapo Jikotimi.
I'm Lisa Idausa. My name is Augustina Ogbemodia. I'm from Nigeria.
I'm from Nigeria. I live here in Ireland.
You wanna play with a player like me? Walk one way, say one me. Never ever had a girl like me. A little bird told me you like trees.
Okay, so that was just a very short synopsis there of some of the individuals and groups that we work with. You might have recognised in the background Mount Congreve for the Igbo community group, and Minnie Marley, who was prancing around outside. So, how lucky are we to have such diversity and such culture here in Waterford? And I hope that everybody appreciates it as much as we do. Without further ado, I want to hand you over to the amazing Minnie Marley. Minnie is a South African singer, a songwriter based in Ireland, and she specialises in dance-oriented music with a blend of Afro, dancehall, hip-hop, R&B and pop. She is becoming a rising star in the music industry in Ireland, gathering a wider audience and broadens her reach, gaining for the title of Queen of Irish Urban Music in 2020. Her music is receiving support from top Irish, American, African DJs, radio stations, and Minnie is known for her energetic stage performance. But before that, I would like to thank especially our organisers today, Europe Direct Waterford, Waterford Libraries, Sinead, Breda and Annie, and also Sinead Cummins, who's not with us today because she's unwell, but was there with us at all the early stages of planning, Waterford Integration Services, and especially the staff here of Theatre Royal, Mary, Dermot, John, Michelle and Deirdre. The Europe Direct Waterford Centre is based in Central Library in Waterford City. It is a part of a community of 424 Europe Direct centres around Europe, whose purpose is to reinforce the important connection between the EU citizens and all the citizens of the member states. Waterford Libraries has 12 public branches spread throughout Waterford City and County. Library membership is free and open to everyone. As an integral part of the Cultural Department of Waterford City and County Council, Waterford Library actively seeks opportunities to work in partnership with local organisations, groups and individuals to offer everyone in Waterford access to a library service that supports the development of reading, learning and culture. My name is Anne Nolan. I am Programme Lead with Waterford Integration Services. We are a humanitarian NGO. We work with refugees and asylum seekers and other vulnerable migrants from across the whole globe. We have a global outlook for local delivery. I want to thank you for your attendance today, for your concentration, for your participation and for your appreciation of everybody who has spoken or performed here today. So I now would like to hand you over to Minnie Marley. I hope you all got your little goodie bags. And thank you all so much for making this such a wonderful event that it is today. Minnie Marley.
This song is called My Way.
You wanna play with a player like me? Walk home when you say you want me. Never ever had a girl like me. A little bird told me you like tree. I know your girlfriend is like me. Waste money on my cup of tea. Me not care, baby girl, try me. One chance, me no do strike three. Darkness, darkness, wasted. Don't do this, do that, who said? Go my way, your way, two way. Amuse me, amuse me, my way. Darkness, darkness, wasted. Don't do this, do that, who said? Go my way, your way, two way. No way, you can hit the highway. Don't play with a girl like me. You get burnt, play a girl like me. Your new girlfriend named Shelly. And me hurt that her breast smelly. Me keep keeping more personality. Bamba big, me and Turk Delhi. See me face to face already. Sweet move, Ali and Jelly. Darkness, darkness, wasted. Don't do this, do that, who's it? Go my way, your way, two way. Amusement and use me my way. Darkness, darkness, wasted. Don't do this, do that, who's it? Go my way, your way, two way. No way, you can hit the highway. You wanna play with a player like me? Never ever had a girl like me. I know your girlfriend is like me. Me not care, baby girl, try me. One chance, me no do strike three. Darkness, darkness, wasted. Don't do this, do that, who's it? Go my way, your way, two way. Amuse me, my way. Darkness, darkness, wasted. Don't do this, do that, who's it? Go my way, your way, two way. No way, you can hit the highway.
This song is called Vex. Vex means angry.
Need you to go up, need you to go up on that thing. Nothing no one, need something new. Way out upon, come work on it. If me get vexed, me gotta live make sense. Nothing what you say makes sense. Nothing what you say makes sense. Nah. Thinking of leaving me vex. Thinking of leaving me vex. Nah. Nothing what you say makes sense. Nothing what you say makes sense. Nah. Thinking of leaving me vex. Thinking of leaving me vex. Nah. Tell you if you move, I tell you if you move quick on it. Another is waiting for get next in line. You bedroom them one next in line. You giving them chance for get next in line. Now vex me twice, I got next in line. Nothing what you say makes sense. Nothing what you say makes sense. No. Thinking of leaving me vex. Thinking of leaving me vex. No. Nothing what you say makes sense. Nothing what you say makes sense. No. Thinking of leaving me vex. Thinking of leaving me vex. No. Need you to go on. Need you to go up on that thing. Nothing no one needs something new. Way out upon, come work on it. If me get fixed, me gonna leave make sense. Nothing what you say makes sense. Nothing what you say makes sense. No. Thinking of leaving me vex. Thinking of leaving me vex. No. Nothing what you say makes sense. Nothing what you say makes sense. No, 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 no. Thinking of it, leaving me vexed. Thinking of it, leaving me vexed. No, 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 no. Nothing what you say makes sense. Nothing what you say makes sense. No, 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 no. Thinking of it, leaving me vexed. Thinking of it, leaving me vexed. No, 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 no.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. My name is Minnie Marley, singer-songwriter. Happy International Women's Day to everyone. On this International Women's Day, I would like to recommend that everyone breaks the bias. Break the bias, guys. Oh, you guys want one more song? One more tune, yeah? I can't hear the ladies. Ladies scream. Okay. We got one more song. This one's called Vibe.
Get next to you, yeah. Want me up it too, yeah. Get next to you, yeah. I'm in the mood. Come through, yeah. Netflix and do. Come through, yeah. Want me up it too, yeah. Get next to you, yeah. Want me up it too, yeah. Get next to you, yeah. You can do what you wanna do, yeah. Get next to me. Come through, yeah. I'm feeling the vibe. Got me so high, I can't deny. You're making me high. Touching me, leaving me breathless, yeah. Feeling the vibe. Got me so high, I can't deny. You're making me high. Touching me, leaving me breathless. I want me up it too, yeah. Get next to you, yeah. I want me up it too, yeah. Get next to you, yeah. I'm in the mood. Come through, yeah. Netflix and do. Come through, yeah. Let's sail away and get lost in the vibe. This is the right time. Come take a ride on the wild side. Making me laugh. Come take a ride on the wild side. Let's make a deal, yeah. I am yours and you are mine. I want me happy too, yeah. Get next to you, yeah. I want me happy too, yeah. Get next to you, yeah. You can do what you wanna do, yeah. Get next to me. Come through, yeah. I want me happy too, yeah. Get next to you, yeah. I want me happy too, yeah. Get next to you, yeah. I'm in the mood. Come through, yeah. Netflix and do. Come through, yeah. I'm feeling the vibe. I'm feeling the vibe. I'm feeling the vibe. Got me so high, I can't deny. You can do what you wanna do, yeah. Get next to me. Come through, yeah.
Thank you so much. What do you say after that? I mean, come on.
Okay, so that's the end of our event today.
I just want to get crashed the show. This
Again.
is our Mother Africa, Waterford, 1. On the 25th of February, she completed 60. Happy birthday, Anne. Surprise! Go on, enjoy the fame.
These are bad people, really bad people.
birthday to you.
Oh, for goodness sakes, thank you so much.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Anne. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, ladies. Okay, so Anne Woodworth will probably have a new member of your choir soon. I'm getting right up there, as you can see. I was 60 last week.
And we just want to thank you so much for everything you've done for us, especially the migrant community. You have been a voice. You've supported us, including myself. Thank you so much. This is something small to say thank you and happy birthday.
You're more than welcome. Thank you. Okay, the bad people are going to pay for that. Okay, so look, we hope you enjoyed this morning. If you did, go out and tell all your friends. It's wonderful to see you all live again. We had our last live event in 2020, 2 days before the country went into lockdown. We were down in Gartlane. So look, thank you so much. Please watch out for our work during the year. Please bear in mind what we had to say today about breaking biases. We all carry our own. We just have to learn to think about walking in the other person's shoes. Thank you so much. Please help us all to celebrate. There's some coffee and cakes out in the hallway. So I think if you go out, you turn left. Okay? So thank you, everybody. Go and have some cake. Mary Roach, thank you very much at the back there. Thank you so much. Thank you to all our performers and all our speakers. Safe home. I hope it stopped raining.
Must be a kinder